What is Silicon Valley's greatest invention? The microprocessor? The personal computer? The internet? The smartphone? Artificial intelligence? All reasonable answers. All wrong. Because Silicon Valley's most influential creation may not have been a technology at all. It may have been a person, or more precisely, a new kind of person, the startup founder. Not the entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs have existed for centuries. Not the business owner. Business owners are as old as civilization itself. But the founder, a person who believes a small team can challenge giant institutions, raise capital, build something new, and potentially change the world. Today that idea feels normal. For most of history, it wasn't. This is the story of how the Bay Area turned entrepreneurship into a global aspiration. Entrepreneurs existed long before Silicon Valley. The Industrial Revolution had entrepreneurs. The railroad era had entrepreneurs. The automobile industry had entrepreneurs. The early computing industry had entrepreneurs. People have always started businesses. But historically, entrepreneurs were often viewed differently. Business leaders tended to be industrialists, corporate executives, owners of family enterprises. Founders were not typically celebrated as a distinct cultural category. They built companies, but they rarely became symbols. That would change. One of the most powerful stories in Silicon Valley is the garage. The HP garage, the Apple garage, countless startup origins. The garage is more than a location. It's a symbol. The idea that extraordinary companies can emerge from ordinary places. The idea that resources matter less than ambition. The idea that small teams can accomplish enormous things. Whether entirely accurate or partially mythologized, the story became powerful. And stories shape behavior. In 1939, Bill Hewlett and David Packard founded Hewlett-Packard. Looking back, HP represents something larger than a successful company. It helped establish an archetype. Engineers could become founders. Technical talent could become business leadership. Innovation could emerge from small teams. These ideas would echo through generations. The founder model had begun taking shape. Then came Fairchild Semiconductor. In 1957, 8 engineers left William Shockley's company and launched a new venture. History remembers them as the Traitorous Eight. It's one of the most important moments in Silicon Valley history. Not simply because Fairchild became successful, because it normalized something radical: leaving. If talented people believed leadership was wrong, they could start something new. That idea seems obvious today. At the time, it was far less common. A culture of spin-outs emerged. Employees became founders. Founders built companies. Companies produced future founders. The cycle began accelerating. A founder culture alone is not enough. Founders need capital. This is where Silicon Valley became different. The rise of venture capital around Sand Hill Road created an entirely new financial system. Traditional banks generally avoid high-risk startups. Venture capital embraced them. Investors weren't looking for certainty. They were looking for possibility. A few extraordinary successes could offset many failures. This changed everything. Because now founders had access to resources. Ideas could become companies. Companies could become industries. One of Silicon Valley's most unusual cultural characteristics involves failure. In many places, business failure carries lasting stigma. A failed company becomes a warning. In Silicon Valley, failure often became experience. Not always celebrated, not always desirable, but tolerated. And tolerance matters, because innovation requires experimentation. Experimentation creates mistakes. Mistakes create learning. Learning creates future successes. The ecosystem evolved around this logic. Then came the personal computer revolution, the internet revolution, the social media revolution, and founders became famous. Steve Jobs, Larry Page, Sergey Brin, Mark Zuckerberg. Their companies became global. Their stories became cultural narratives. Media attention amplified the phenomenon. The founder became a recognizable character. Not merely a business person, an innovator, a visionary, a disruptor, a builder. A new archetype entered popular culture. By the 1990s and 2000s, a remarkable shift had occurred. Many ambitious young people no longer dreamed exclusively of joining large corporations. Increasingly, they wanted to create companies. The aspiration changed. The founder became a career path, a legitimate one, a celebrated one. And Silicon Valley stood at the center of that transformation. Perhaps the most important part of the story is what happened next. The model spread. Europe, Asia, Latin America, Africa, the Middle East. Governments studied Silicon Valley. Universities studied Silicon Valley. Investors studied Silicon Valley. Entrepreneurs studied Silicon Valley. Innovation hubs emerged around the world. Each adapted the model differently, but many shared common ingredients. Talent, capital, risk-taking, mentorship, startup formation. The founder culture became global. It's important to remember something. Founder stories are compelling, but they are incomplete. No founder succeeds alone. Every successful company depends on employees, customers, universities, investors, researchers, institutions. The founder matters. The ecosystem matters too. One of Silicon Valley's greatest strengths is that it created both, and the combination proved extraordinarily powerful. Many people assume Silicon Valley's biggest exports were products, chips, computers, search engines, apps. Those mattered. But another export may have been equally influential: a belief. The belief that a small group of determined people can build something that changes the world. Whether entirely true or partially mythological is almost beside the point, because people act on beliefs, and this belief inspired millions. Throughout Bay Origins, we've explored technologies that transformed society: semiconductors, computers, networks, search, social media, electric vehicles, artificial intelligence. But beneath all of those innovations lies a deeper pattern. People, specifically, people who believe they could create something new. The Bay Area didn't invent entrepreneurship. It popularized a new version of it. A founder-centric model built around risk, capital, talent, ambition, experimentation. And that model spread across the world. Which brings us back to the question at the heart of Bay Origins. Why did it happen here? Perhaps because Silicon Valley didn't merely build technologies. It built a culture that convinced people they could build technologies. And cultures can be even more powerful than products. The innovator's ledger. Lesson 1. Culture scales faster than products. Silicon Valley's most influential export may have been a mindset. Ideas spread. Beliefs spread. Cultures spread. Never underestimate cultural innovation. Lesson 2. Ecosystems create founders. Great founders matter, but ecosystems create opportunities for founders to emerge, build environments, not just companies. Lesson 3. Risk tolerance creates possibility. Every breakthrough begins as an uncertain experiment. Organizations that tolerate intelligent risk often generate disproportionate innovation. Founders question. Silicon Valley helped popularize the belief that small teams can challenge established institutions. What assumption in your industry survives only because nobody has been willing to challenge it yet? Silicon Valley did not invent entrepreneurship. It did not invent ambition. And it did not invent risk-taking. What it helped invent was a new story. A story in which founders became central characters. Small teams became world-changing organizations. And company creation became a global aspiration. The Bay Area produced remarkable technologies. But its most enduring contribution may have been the people inspired to build the next generation of them. This is Bay Origins, birthplace of the future.